According to the screen. All right. It is Motivated Monday. I'm actually going to start changing motivated because then that fits in with the motivated realtor as well. So I think I'm going to start rebranding to that. And uh, don't have a whole lot of people being consistent about being here week over week. And that is one of the things I wanted to talk about today was consistency over time. Because this morning when I woke up, I did not want to work out. I didn't want to do it. I was like, I want to sleep. I want to sleep in. I don't want to do the work. And ultimately, I said, I have goals. So I'm just going to do a little bit of work. And I got the workout done. It wasn't the most intense workout in the world, but over time, it will pay off because, for instance, when I started working out, I weighed 130 pounds. I was 6'1", and I have a massive head, and I was incredibly skinny. So I looked like a blow pop, absolutely disproportionate. And had I not been so consistent over time, I never would have put on, developed the strength, developed the endurance, developed all the things. And it was just a little bit every day. And I think about that I think about that consistency all the time when it comes to building my business because when I started, obviously, a lot of people who know my story, and I'm sure you know this about me, that I knew nobody in Atlanta, and it was adding one contact a day, or more than one contact a day. I was adding like 3, 4, 5, sometimes 8, 10 contacts a day to my database, and then consistently following up with them. And it was the ability to do that and focus on the big picture, and not focus on the sprint that helped me develop my business. So whenever you're feeling like run down about what you're doing, and feeling like things aren't working, focus on the fact that it is working even when you don't realize it's working. And I know it's easier to say that, and it's hard to see it, hard to believe it until you see it. And even when you dealt with it, it's so easy to get like caught up in our emotions and feel like things aren't working and feel like need to make a change when you don't necessarily do. And that's why we people get so many realtors get caught up with the new shiny penny. And like Ben talked about last week at team meeting, he said, so many realtors will, get to, on the double the penny scenario, they'll get to the 10, 20 or 30 or 25 before they get to here's the point where it really starts to take effect and really starts to build on what you've done. And they'll find a new shiny penny, and they'll start that new shiny penny and start working at doubling that. And then they get discouraged again. So whatever you're doing in your business, try and find a way to be consistent over time on what works for you. For instance, if you're working on social media, keep working on social media. Over time, I think it will absolutely pay off. So let's talk about accountability. Is that something you wanted to work on today, right, Miss Fati?
Yes, that is correct, Tony.
So what about accountability?
So before we get started into that, um, do you have the before pictures?
Before pictures of me?
Yeah. Fitness yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I've got some. I might have
Just
one.
showing up with the crowd.
I might have one from this would have been like eighth grade though. It wouldn't have been. No, that would have been after eighth grade. Might have been ninth grade. I'd have to see if I have something. I don't have very many old photos. I remember one specifically of me and my friend Tom when we went to Florida on
Uh-huh.
vacation, um, where you could see how little I was. So I'd have to see if I still have that album.
Oh man. Okay. Well, in regards to accountability, I feel
Hmm.
like one thing that I've noticed with myself is I'll set like these really big goals and they're definitely very achievable,
Hmm.
but like putting too much on my plate, like I'll probably get really, really like motivated to do it like the first week, the second week, but then afterwards I'll get like really, really tired and I'll just be like, oh, and then I feel like I lose momentum.
Hmm.
But in relation to what you mentioned, like the consistency part, I think it's better to probably do like build like the penny concept, like doing little things here and there that over time will compile and that'll create more momentum for you to
Hmm.
achieve. like your other goals. So
Absolutely.
one thing that I had mentioned last week is that I wanted to follow the um, productivity schedule that Ben had created for us, at
Hmm.
least 3 days out of the week. I wanted to say five. I wanted to say seven,
Hmm.
but I think starting off with just three will allow me to be more consistent, and then over time be able to like bring more days in or do more days.
Yeah.
So I go ahead.
Oh no, keep going. I'm just,
So I was
I'll
gonna say
keep.
I definitely appreciate like the importance. I feel like you can't have accountability without the consistency.
Mhm.
I mean you can have the accountability, but the consistency is definitely very important.
Absolutely. And you talk about, I think 3 days is um, a great place to start. One of the things I always talk about when it comes to setting any goals is you don't want to, you don't want to try and do too much because then you burn yourself out. And I think 7 days is absolutely too much, for anybody. Um, so I think that's too big a goal, right? So by setting too big a goal, you can burn out and not get to where you want to be, feel like you're not getting there. And when you think about your big goals, always think about the small goals that will get you to the bigger goals, all the steps it took. And for me, it was, again, adding the contacts to my database, not knowing anybody. All right, you get 2,000 contacts in your database managed effectively, you can potentially make $1 million a year. So that was a very specific number I was able to wrap my head around and then focus on achieving that goal. And that was just, you know, again, one contact at a time, one conversation at a time, one cold call at a time. And I think for you also, when you talk about, the 3 to 5 days, you're putting pieces in place to have the leads come to you, right? With the social media that we're doing, um, and over time, that will you're not necessarily seeing an effect from it now, but if you're consistently doing that work over time, then those leads are going to be coming to you, and all that work you put into it on the front side of it will pay off down the road.
Yeah. How did you determine your like number for how many leads that you could do? Like how did you do it? Like
What do
what
you
was
mean?
your strategy for setting your goals?
It was about. I mean, for me, it was just at first it was just throw as much against the wall as I do as much work as I possibly humanly could, and that's literally what I did. Right? I mean, 80, 90 hour work weeks, and just not stopping. And you can only do that for so long. So now I mean, it's definitely so. Now the goals are obviously to build on top of what I've already built. I want to be more successful each year. And so I think I built my business in layers, right? When I was first getting started, it was figuring out, okay, my database and making sure I have a super solid follow-up system, which I've got. Um, and then, learning well, and all the time while doing that. And I was learning conversations, right? Learning how to get better at talking to people. That's so incredibly important. So, because not having to think about what you're saying makes you that much more professional compared to everybody else. And then over time, it was okay adding the email to my database, adding the 40,000 agents to my database nationwide. Now it's adding the YouTube channel. And I didn't add too much at once because if I had too much at once, I would have gotten overwhelmed. Um, so that's a big thing to focus on. Focus on each piece at a time, right? And again, setting up the systems for like follow up. That's a fairly easy one to set up, I would say. Um, but um, yeah, I say one because you definitely got to have the follow up, right? A text just came in, about my 9:15 meeting. So I would say focus on that, on the follow up, because if you do without follow up, all the work is almost. I mean, you're wasting your time if you're not following up. So focus on one system at a time and build one layer at a time.
Oh, how did you build the strategy to, connect with people, add one person. You kind of told me what that was, but your follow
Yeah.
up. Were you
So yeah,
using the software, or were you?
yeah. It's all smart plans. It's all smart plans for sure. Um, so everybody's on smart plans, which reminds me, hey, call them. This time I open my CRM. Like if I would open my CRM right now, let me just respond to this text. Like, I will be there. I will be there. I hit yes. Sorry. I will. I will. There we go. Um, yeah, and my follow-up system at first was just following up with one phone call per quarter. And then when I took bold and my coach James Farron said, hey, call 3 times per quarter. If they don't answer, that's when things really start taking off. So that was such an instrumental part in building my business, and making sure that I was able to connect to people, able to have the conversations. And again, also it yeah, one extra voicemail, instead of just one voicemail, it's two, and it helps them, because like if someone receives one voicemail every 3 months, they might forget, right? But then if they receive a voicemail today and then they receive a voicemail from me on Friday, then they're like, oh yeah, Tony called on Friday, but he's saying it's okay if I don't call him back. That helps cement me in their memory just a little bit better. So, but again, that also it makes it feel like it's not working, when you're not talking to people again and again and again. So, um, hopefully that's helpful. I have to cut it short today because I've got an appointment at 9:15, and I just looked it up, and it's going to take me 20 minutes to get there. So we'll talk more about accountability and making sure we help you stay accountable to your goals, and help you achieve your goals.
Cool beans. Thank you.
You're welcome. Talk soon.
Talk soon.